Hi, I'm Hunter. What is Nikola worth? The simplest answer to that question is it's worth what someone is willing to pay you for it. Nikola is trying to build electric vehicles. The obvious comparison is to Tesla. They're both named after the same guy. However, unlike Tesla, Nikola doesn't have products, Nikola does not have customers, and they don't have revenue. So, when you're investing in Nikola, when you buy shares in Nikola, you're not buying shares in a business. You are buying shares in a business concept. They're a startup.
It is unusual for an organization like that to trade stock publicly.
And Tesla also went through this same stage. Once upon a time, Tesla was a startup. And venture capitalists invested in Tesla, guys like Elon Musk. And they used that money to start building vehicles, and then they had the product, the customers, and the revenue. Now, Tesla doesn't make money. They lost money for years and years and years. Technically, they've made money for the last 5 quarters, but not because of the cars they sell. They've been making money because of the money from carbon credits. Now, I don't know what the scalability of the carbon credit market is, and where it is, and how long it'll last, or anything like that. And you can argue, well, what difference does it make? Money is money. Yeah, all right, that's fair enough. Money is money. If they're making money with carbon credits, then good for them. That's a part of their business. But anyway, after Tesla started building their vehicles, the Roadster, they became a public company, and you could get shares of Tesla for like $10. So Nikola is kind of just at the beginning. And there are other companies that are trying to do what Nikola is doing. I've heard recommendations for a couple of similar companies. For instance, Lucid and Rivian. And there are others. There's also a couple of Chinese companies that already build vehicles. However, they're Chinese, which is not a positive thing in this country for a variety of reasons. And also, the vehicles that they build are not necessarily targeted to the US market. So you can invest in them in the United States right now. They are publicly traded. I don't even know what they're called, but I don't know if they sell anything in this country. I don't know. They're figuring things out. And so too are these startups like Nikola. Now, I've heard people say that Nikola is like there's some impropriety, or it's a scam, or the guy who founded Nikola, Trevor Milton, is kind of this controversial character, I guess. He was the CEO of Nikola. Nikola has been going through a lot of volatility lately. They recently reached an agreement with General Motors. Basically, General Motors is going to invest in Nikola a sum of money, get a percentage of the company, and in exchange, Nikola will get access to General Motors' manufacturing capacity. Pretty simple.
And I forgot to mention this. This is a report that was released by this analyst firm, Hindenburg, and they are pointing out all of the less well-defined parts of Nikola's presentations and business plan, apparently. However, at the very least, when you're considering what they bring up, you have to appreciate that they have a financial interest in being total pessimists about Nikola. They may be right, or they may be wrong, but they do have an agenda obviously, of, well, pretty much the agenda is to destroy the company and make a lot of money doing it. That's literally their agenda. And so for this, and one other reason that I'll discuss in a minute, the deal between GM and Nikola has been put on hold. And GM got a lot of criticism from people who said, how could you not know what was going on here? How did you not look into these things? And GM responded by saying, no, we looked into them. We did our due diligence. And so right now it seems like GM is trying to squeeze Nikola for more equity. And Nikola isn't having any of it. They said publicly that they have plans to proceed without GM if necessary. And now it's time for a December update. This video was delayed a couple of times, and unfortunately things happened over that time, so I had to keep adding to the video. The deal's off. GM got cold feet, and it looks pretty unprofessional looking at them because they swore up and down that they had done all the diligence necessary for the deal, and they're supposed to be the adult in the room. But they don't want to do the deal. So since that time, a lot has happened. The price of Nikola was about $25 per share before the deal was announced. When the deal was announced, the price exploded. The price of Nikola has been highly volatile. Every time some information related to the GM deal is announced, the price would go up or down. And in the meanwhile, that report from Hindenburg about the substantiality of Nikola was published, and information about the CEO of Nikola was published, which I'll discuss. And investors felt that the deal with GM was the best thing Nikola had going for it. And now that deal is off the table. So Nikola is going to be literally doing different things. The Badger truck that was going to be manufactured with GM is, as of now, canceled. So investors are now looking at Nikola as more of a speculative investment, and it may well be.
And then it emerged that Trevor Milton had allegations of some sort of sexual misconduct that he had committed in the past. Now, well, that's not good. I've heard that he's a scoundrel and that he's, he can't be trusted. I don't know what that means for the company he founded. I don't know if that means anything. Perhaps it does, perhaps it doesn't. You might remember that Tesla's first CEO, Eberhard, I believe, was also forced to resign or something like that after financial impropriety. There was something wrong with Tesla's accounting, and they were losing money. It was going somewhere. I don't know. And at that point, Eberhard left, and Elon Musk stepped in as CEO. Now, when that happened, that looked bad for Tesla. That looked bad for Tesla's management. And Elon Musk was a guy who invested in Eberhard, who was one of the guys who founded the company. So that event didn't define the future of Tesla. It simply was a thing that happened, and that can happen. It's not a positive thing. It would have been better if it had not happened, but it happened. And so Trevor Milton, he's not the CEO. I don't know if he's still on the board or how deep his connections to Nikola are. He is the biggest shareholder by far, but it remains to be seen exactly what that means for Nikola. And whether Nikola is a better or worse startup than these other startups, I don't really know. Nikola has shown certainly some initiative in getting the public funding, They have, tried to speed up the process of getting their vehicles made. And they've even said, the new CEO, whoever he is, has even said that he's willing to manufacture, they have a plan for manufacturing without General Motors, if that's just for a specific model that they're going to build. And they've got other plans for other models, and they've got all of these flamboyant, ideas of what's going to happen, assuming that there is money for it to happen. Tesla, meanwhile, is fantastically overvalued. The amount of money that Tesla makes is absolutely tiny in proportion to the value of the company and the stock. And that's because when people buy Tesla stock, they are putting this gigantic premium on the idea that Tesla is going to change the world and that there's some earth-shattering, pretty literally earth-shattering plan that is going to basically make Tesla the most important company ever, or something along those lines. And that's all speculative. Meanwhile, with Nikola, they don't have any revenue, products, or customers, so the premium that you pay for Nikola is, in theory, infinite. In theory, Nikola is more overvalued than Tesla is, but Nikola is actually a lot cheaper, and I don't know. They're trying to do something that a lot of startups are trying to do. So, I have also read that some people liken buying Nikola to gambling, because when investors are investing in a company, they're looking at the financial performance, they're looking at the revenue, they're looking at the practices of the company, they're looking at the profitability of the company, and they could even be interested in other things like ethics and how it's structured. They look at Nikola and they say, what's going on here? A bunch of crazy guys who don't know what they're doing, asking for money and making all kinds of wild promises that are sort of mock-ups of what they actually say they have, and I don't think that's gambling. Venture capitalists do this all the time. They invest in companies that do not yet exist. They're just ideas. They're just being pitched to them, like screenwriters pitching to a studio. The venture capitalists who get into startups just have faith that the people that are going to run this company are competent and honest, and they're investing in the idea. They believe in the idea. And venture capitalists do just fine. They're not always right, but they're right enough of the time that they're rich. And that's because they're not gambling. Entrepreneurs do this all the time. They do some research, they try and figure out what their market is because they see an opportunity, and then they spend a large amount of money, sometimes not their own money, sometimes they take a loan from a bank or from family or whoever, external investors, to start a business. And we don't call entrepreneurs gamblers. Most of those businesses, in fact, are going to fail anyway. But we don't call that gambling. So, is Nikola gambling? Is buying Nikola stock gambling? Well, it's hard to put a value on what it's going to be worth. It's hard to say, but one thing that you can say is that if you got 100 shares of Nikola right now, it wouldn't be worthless. It'd be worth $2,000. More than that, actually. That's a lot of money. And that's because there's a whole bunch of people out there who believe in the concept of the company, even if it is not yet a business and it does not yet have financial results and things that companies need to be valuable. Meanwhile, Tesla over here is outrageously overvalued, but because people are so in love with the idea, and they are frankly in love with Elon Musk and everything Elon Musk does and says, and they think he's got some kind of, they think he's like Henry Ford. They think he has some kind of supernatural ability to implement things that no one else is able to implement. And, you got a point that traditional manufacturers really have been pretty lame when it comes to electric vehicles and even those other things that Elon Musk is involved in, like rocketry and all those other things, solar technology. He's trying to change the world, and a lot of people don't seem to be doing that. They just seem to be trying to run a business. So most people don't get the chance that Elon Musk does to actually use a whole bunch of people's money to implement ideas. Because frankly, it's not making money yet. And it remains to be seen what's going to happen with Nikola. They are trying to get into the market as soon as possible. That's obvious. A lot of these startups are. But Nikola now has a lot of capital that those other startups don't have. So, I don't know if they will actually end up building vehicles. I don't know if their products are actually going to end up being any good. But there is the very real possibility that Nikola could end up being one of the first significant competitors to Tesla. Isn't that something worth investing in?